Hi, it's Kristen, and this is the Spring Clean Mixtape Readathon. So, unlike the other sort of seasonal mixtape readathons, this one is only a week long. It's running from the 5th to the 12th of June, and it's shorter this time because the hosts are really busy, but also they thought to finish spring off, they'd make a short readathon that's all about sort of clearing your TBR. So I'm just going to read you the prompts. I'm not solidified on the books I'm going to read yet, but I'll let you know what the prompts are. So each prompt is related to a song. So track one is Jackson by Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, which the prompt is read a most anticipated book off your TBR that you're desperate to get to. Track two is Leave, Get Out by JoJo. Great song. Except You Won't Read Something from Your TBR could be a DNF or unhauling a book. Track three is Quarter Life Crisis by Taylor Bickett. A book you've been putting off in case you hate it. Is there a book you've been saving for the right time or been avoiding for fear it's not what it's cracked up to be? Track four is Anticipation by Carly Simon. Take some you time, do something for yourself, whatever that may be. Go for a walk, have a nice meal, do a crafty project, get a good night's sleep, do what feels right for you. So the great thing about the mixtape readathons is that they're not just reading prompts, they're self-care prompts, they're about taking time for you, making sure you do things that will make you feel good, but also maybe be productive, do things that help relax you, self-care, but also do stuff that maybe you've been putting off, which I think is really good. It's like that little bit of motivation to actually not just read, but do stuff that you've been meaning to do that's not reading related. So I quite like that they have those prompts incorporated in. Track five is Replay by Ayaz. Finish reading or DNF a book that's been on your currently reading pile for ages. Track six is Love Me For Me by Rina Sawayama. I love Rina Sawayama. Set some positive intentions for summer. This could be setting a self-care goal, a reading goal, a life change, something you want to achieve, anything. Yeah, I like making lists, I like making goals, so I feel like this will be fun. Track 7, Little Wing by Jimi Hendrix. Read a book you are expecting to be a comfort read. Is there a book you've been saving because you think it'll have perfect comforting vibes? Now is your time to read it. I love a cozy comfort book, so this will be fun. And I feel like summer, I tend to read more fun books, light-hearted books, because I just want those fun, girly summer vibes. Track 8 is Good as Hell by Lizzo. Great song. Do a non-reading related hobby for at least an hour. Readathons can mean you don't prioritize other things, but we want, nay, demand that you do. Cook something tasty, pick up your cross stitch, go swimming, go wild, is what it says. Track 9, Breakups by Seaforth. Read a book from a favourite author. Got a hankering to revisit an old favourite? Why not reread one that cemented this person as a favourite author? Or delve into a new to you book from their backlist? The choices are endless. And that is it for the prompts. There are some that I'm really excited about here, some that I think could be interesting, some that I might have to play around with a little bit to get them to fit. But I will post the bingo board they do with all the prompts here now. I'll also link all the hosts below in the description so you can check them out. I follow them all, I think they're all great. And I'm excited for this spring clean readathon. I'm hoping for potentially a new cozy comfort read. So we're going with some Tested Air. I've read Tested Air before, really liked the last book I read of hers. So I'm hoping that this one will be fulfill the comfort read prompt. I was just checking what the prompts were again for like the non-reading prompts,
and there was one about setting positive intentions. And so I decided to like clean my bookshelf, because I've been meaning to do that for ages. So that like was a positive intention that I've put off for like 2 months. So I finally did it. My sister came round and she helped me, which I think helped in that like it didn't take me as long as it would have. I think it would have taken me twice as long, because I like carried all my books out of my room, put them in our spare room, tidied, wiped, cleaned my bookshelf properly. And it also helped in that I was unhauling books, and she helped me be a bit more ruthless, because I was like, yeah, I'll get rid of some books. And then she was just like, right, how many times have you read it? Are you ever going to read it again? No, get rid of it. And I was like, okay. So it's made me feel more positive and excited to read the books that I do have, like reread the books that I do want to reread. And I've got like a better grasp of like what my TBR looks like now, because I moved that around. So yeah, the positive intentions side of thing is like I've now organized my TBR into like, these are the books I want to get to first. These are like the ones I want to get to at some point in the summer, and then other books that I'm still excited about but aren't as much of a priority, I guess. And then I did unwholesome books from books I had read and a couple from my TBR. So I'll show you those, because that was also one of the prompts, was to like admit that you're not going to read something on your TBR. So I will show you those. Please ignore the bedding and the taken apart clothing rail. So the ones that were on my TBR that I'm not going to read are these two. This one I got years ago at uni, and then recently when I was like putting all my books on my Goodreads, found out that it's actually like part of a series. I don't think it's necessarily a series that you have to read in order. It's like parts of a woman's life, so you could just read bits. But I thought, I don't want to start a book if I've not read the first one and it's like part 2 and I'm not fussed enough to get the first one. So I'm getting rid of this one, which is Tales of Passion, Tales of Woe. And then I'm getting rid of this one. My friend gave it to me, so I don't feel as bad getting rid of it, because it's not one I bought myself. And it wasn't like a present, it was just like I'm getting rid of books, like, do you want this one? And I was always interested in reading it, but recently on Twitter the author's been posting some sort of turfy stuff, which has made me not interested in it. So those two were TBR books I've admitted I'm never going to read. That one's more of a like, I actively don't want to read this, and that one is more of a, yeah, I feel like I need to finally give up the ghost, because I've had it on my TBR for like 7 years or something. So that's that prompt done. Come outside to do some reading. I'm still reading Say Yes to the Marquess, because yeah, it was really nice and sunny today, but quite windy, so it doesn't feel too hot. And so yeah, I just thought I'd lie out in the sun, read a bit of my book, and enjoy the sunshine. I'm liking this so far. I'm getting more into it now. I'm liking it. It got like straight into the story and got like action going. Well, not necessarily action, but like got the plot moving like straight away. But it still took me a little bit to get into it. But I am enjoying it. I just like historical romances. I breeze through them quite quickly, like regardless of how much I'm liking them, to be honest. And this one has got enough steamy moments, enough tension, enough silliness to keep me entertained. Yeah, enjoying it. It's Sunday, the last day of the readathon. Have I finished a single book? No. I'm still making my way through this. I want to finish it today. I think in my head I'm really disappointed because normally I read historical romances very quickly. The last Tessa Dare book I read in 2 days. And so I'm annoyed that I've not read this one faster. And also when it comes to readathons, even though this one's only a week long, I always feel like I should read at least 2 books in a readathon. Even though, on average, a book a week is roughly my actual, reading speed, my regular reading speed. But I am annoyed, because I have partially been busy doing other stuff, and then there's been times when I've just been watching YouTube, and it's like, I could have spent that time reading. So, I'm going to have my breakfast, I'm going to do a workout as something I enjoy for me, which I think is related to one of the prompts. Then I'm going to have a shower, and then I'm going to settle down, and I'm going to read more of this book, and I want to finish it tonight. But I am just over halfway through, and typically I find that if it takes me like a week or nearly a week to read the first half of a book, I can read the second half in a day, in an afternoon. That's just what I do a lot of the time. So that is my plan for today, the last day of the readathon, and I will try and vlog more because I've not been vlogging much either.
So I just realised that this readathon actually ends tomorrow, Monday. It's Monday to Monday, the 5th to the 12th, not Monday to Sunday, 5th to the 11th. It's definitely the 5th to the 12th. I checked, and the MixTape on Instagram put up a story saying that today was the penultimate day of the readathon, so I actually have all of the rest of today and all of tomorrow to read and fulfill prompts, etc., which I'm happy about. Last night I finished reading Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa Dare. This was for the prompt that was like a comfort read, because it's historical romance. I love historical romance. It's Tessa Dare, and last time I read a Tessa Dare, I spent like 2 days curled up in bed, so I just sort of associate Tessa Dare with being cozy and comfy. So yeah, this I thought would be a comfort read. It took me longer to read it than I anticipated. I picked this up because I thought, like last time I read Tessa Dare, I could read it in like 2 days, but it took me the whole week. I think because I wasn't as drawn into it as the last Tessa Dare book, Romancing the Duke. I loved Romancing the Duke. I gave it like 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Really liked the characters, really liked their dynamic. This one, didn't like as much. This I gave 3 stars. I didn't love the characters. I quite liked our female character, Cleo, but the love interest, Rafe, annoyed me too much for me to be like satisfied completely. There were some very sweet moments in here. There were also some kind of cringy moments. And then the sex scenes I do think were done quite well. He was very like attentive to her, which I always appreciate, especially in historical romances when obviously there's sort of more on the line
for women generally in those days. But he was so back and forth in his thinking, and sort of hypocritical in what he thought and then what he did, and then how he acted toward Cleo. And like, I like her more because I don't blame her for all the confusion that she had in her side of things, because I would have been confused if he had talked and acted to me the way he did, like back and forth, because he would, the whole premise is that she's engaged to his brother but she doesn't want to be, and so they make a deal. She's like, if in a week I still don't want to marry him, you'll sign as like the male family member who's in this country, because her fiance's off elsewhere. She's like, you'll sign the papers that make this engagement like null and void. And he's like, fine, but in that week I'm gonna like try and convince you to get married, and I'm gonna plan the wedding, and I think you're gonna end up being like, yeah, I want to get married. So that's like their agreement. And throughout the week he's doing all these things to organise the wedding. He's arranging flowers, arranging cakes, arranging gowns and musicians and all these things to prepare her for the wedding. Meanwhile, she's just consistently like, yeah, I don't want to get married. I still don't want to get married. Here's my plan for my future. Here's what I want to be doing. And she's like, plus I've been engaged to your brother for like 8 years now. He's had his time. I don't want to wait around any longer. And like, he must not really want to marry me, because why has he not already? Which, valid. Valid point, Cleo. And so he's like, okay, I need to prepare the wedding, but I also need to prove to her that like she is worth marrying and she's desirable and all that kind of stuff. So he's then very romantic towards her, because he's like, you know, you are like gorgeous and desirable and you're a beautiful woman and any man would be lucky to have you, and says all these romantic things. They get into some situations where he's telling her and showing her how desirable men, but particularly he, finds her. And then he goes back to being like, but you need to marry my brother. Even though like mentally he's like, I don't want her to marry my brother, but there's no other option. And then he's like surprised when she's still like, I'm confused and I don't want to marry your brother, and like, do you have feelings for me? And then he's like, oh, but we could never be together, but I'm still gonna like kiss her and stuff. And it's just like, dude. And it would be fine if that was like the thing of like the whole arc of the book, but it's like back and forth. It's like he goes from being like, no, I can never be with her, actually she's really hot, I want to hook up with her, no, I can never be with her, actually maybe I will tell her I do like her, but no, she needs to marry my brother, but actually I do want to sleep with her, but no, I do. And it's like too much back and forth that he just annoyed me. Also, all the side characters, apart from Phoebe, the younger sister, she was okay, but all the other side characters annoyed me as well. I just didn't love them. I still enjoyed this. I, had fun reading it. I got somewhat swept up in some of the moments, but I didn't love it as a whole. It was a 3-star. I still like Tessa Dare's writing for the most part. And
and I own loads of her books now, so I'm gonna continue on. I will say, of all the books of hers that I've got, this was the one, like, synopsis that I was least excited about. Not that I thought the premise was bad, but I am more interested in her other books. But it's just that this one was book 2 in the Castles Ever After series. Romancing the Duke, that I've read, was book 1, so I am somewhat reading them in order. So having this be the one I was least excited about, but be 3-star, which is still a decent rating in my mind, I'm excited to get some more. And I do still feel like comforted with historical romance. I do like historical romance. So yes, that's what I finished last night. And then today, the final day of the readathon, I sort of just wanted to like read a whole thing. I'm like not been feeling great about my reading, and I wanted to feel accomplished, and considering this whole thing is about like spring cleaning your shelves and like getting through stuff, finishing stuff, all that jazz, I thought I would pick up something short from my shelves. This does also somewhat fit the prompt of like one that it's like you're hesitant about reading in case you don't like it or something. I'm gonna pick up Captain America, Iron Man, a Marvel Comics event, Civil War. This was given to me by my friend a couple of Christmases ago now, so I've had it for a long time. I feel like I just need to get to it. I like Marvel. I'm hesitant about this because in Civil War the movie, I'm very much team Captain America. I don't particularly like Iron Man as a character, full stop. And I'm hesitant because I'm like, is Iron Man just going to annoy me and I'm not going to like him? On the one side. On the other side, I'm like, what if actually in this my opinion is switched? So yeah, I'm hesitant about reading this, but at the same time, like, I just want to get to it and have it read. And I'm hoping, because it's like a comic graphic novel, that I can read this all this afternoon, have it done, check another thing off my TBR, which will feel great, can move it from my TBR shelf to my main bookshelf, and that will just make me feel better. So yes, that is what I plan to read. I will update you either partway through or maybe just when I'm finished and I do my wrap up. So yeah, that is what I read and what I'm reading. Hello, this wrap up is coming to you like a week and a half, I think, after the readathon actually finished. But I've not had an opportunity to film alone in the house, so that's why this is coming late. Anyway, here we go. I'm gonna go through the prompts I achieved, what I read, what I thought about what I read. I know I've already shared, I think I shared my thoughts on Say Yes to the Marquess, and then I said I was going to read Captain America, Iron Man, Civil War. I never actually gave my thoughts on that. I think I was like, I'm gonna go read it, I'll tell you what I think, and now you're here. So here's what I achieved. Here's the prompts I did. I've got them written down here. Okay, so let go of a TBR book. I did that. I did an unhaul that week. I unhauled books that I'd already read, and then I took a couple off my TBR for various reasons. There was one I think that I realised was a sequel or like a companion book, and I do not own and have not read the first book, and it wasn't one that I was interested enough to find the first book for, so I got rid of that.
And then there was one that I recently found out the author of was like quite transphobic, so I don't want to read that from her. Don't want to support that author, so got rid of that. I think those were the two I got rid of. Yes, those were the two I got rid of. My unhaul pile is currently on the floor down there. So those are the two from my TBR that I'm letting go of. I've had them both on my TBR for a while. I've had one of them on my TBR for a couple of years. Got it a couple of Christmases ago from a friend. And then the companion sequel one I actually got like 7-8 years ago when I was at uni. So there's also an element of like, if I had not read it in that amount of time, when was I ever going to read it? So that's gone. Then take some me time. I definitely took some me time during that week. I worked less hours. I spent a lot of time relaxing at home, so I definitely took me time. I relaxed in that time, but also did stuff that needed to be done, like tidying my room and all that jazz. Setting positive intentions, I definitely did. Like I said, I tidied, and then my intentions were to keep things tidy. I set some reading goals after I tidied my bookshelf, because I was reminded of like what's on my TBR and what I want to read and videos I want to make, and so I'm setting those intentions. Doing a non-reading hobby was one of the prompts. I definitely did that. I think the prompt was actually to do it for like an hour. I didn't ever do like a full hour of the hobby I'm thinking of. I did like bits throughout the week, so cumulatively it was an hour. But I worked out a lot. I did a lot of exercise that week, which is something I enjoy. I do various workouts, but one I really enjoy doing is coming in to the spare room and doing like a bit of a dance step workout. I did a lot of that during the week, so that was fun. And then in terms of what I read, one of the prompts was pick a comfort read. This book ended up not being a favourite, but the genre was why I picked it as a potential comfort read. And that was Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa Dare. This is historical romance, which is a genre I typically love. This was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I liked aspects of it, didn't like other aspects of it. I've already spoken more in detail about this in this video. So yeah, it's not a new favourite, but actually a few days after finishing it, I've been wanting to read more historical romance. So it's definitely reignited my want. I always sort of want to read historical romance, but then I just never do. And having read this, I'm like, I really need to make an effort to read more historical romance more often. I think one of the reasons I don't read it as often is I don't have, or I didn't have, a ton of historical romance on my TBR, but I do now. I have several other Tessa Dare books that I can get to. I have some Sarah McLean books, and I have a couple on my Kindle as well, I think. So now that I have more historical romance, this has definitely like reminded me why I love historical romance. Even though this didn't necessarily fulfill all the things I love about historical romance, it's the good bits of it reminded me why I love historical romance, and the bits I didn't enjoy reminded me why I have loved other historical romance. And there are definitely tropes in books on my TBR that I think I have a preference for over the tropes and the synopsis here, so I'm hopeful to read those. So this wasn't necessarily like a comfort read in itself, but it's reminded me why I love the genre so much and reignited my want to read more of the genre. So it fulfilled itself in that, like, historical romance as a genre, I was like, yes, that is definitely solidified as a comfort read for me. This was still fun and like fairly quick for me, in that I read it in a week. So yes, that was what I read for Find a Comfort Read. And then on the last day, I read Captain America, Iron Man, Civil War. This is very white, so there we go. This was my book I was putting off. I got given this a few Christmases ago by a friend, along with some other comics which I've already read. But this one I was sort of putting off because it was the biggest one of the graphic novel comic collections he gave me. And Civil War is a storyline that intrigues me, but I think can cause arguments amongst the fans over whether like you are Team Cap or Team Iron Man. I was firmly watching the movies Team Cap. I understand where Team Iron Man come from, but I am with Team Cap in that regulating people seems dangerous. And I think there's an element of it that, like, from Iron Man's perspective, he has caused a lot of the damage. So I get that he feels like guilt and feels that he should be held accountable for that, and that's fine, that's good. But at the same time, you know, he is just a man in a super suit. And like that's where his power comes from. Whereas a lot of the people who are on Team Cap are people who in themselves have power. Like Cap obviously took the super serum, and so that's why he's really strong and all that stuff. He's strong and a good fighter. And like in the movies, Scarlet Witch, you know, also underwent experimentation, and so she just like has magic now. And so I think it's very unfair for someone who can take off their suit and go back to being a normal person to say to someone who just is superhuman in themselves that they and their powers should be regulated by the government. Because Tony, whenever he wants, can take off his suit and he's just back to normal. Whereas, you know, Wanda and Cap and other characters who are like mutants or experimentations gone wrong, they just are superpowered heroes, superhuman people. And so it's essentially, you know, saying, oh, well, my suit is like, and its uses are being approved by the government, but you as a person, just with the inherent abilities that you have, are being regulated. And that's where I'm more Team Cap. Also with the fact that Cap, like, through S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, knows that, like, governments and, like, organizations and stuff can be infiltrated and can be manipulated and things be used for wrong purposes, in that he was fully with S.H.I.E.L.D. and then found out that actually Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. And so what's to stop a bad organization or a bad person infiltrating the government, or what's to stop the government themselves saying, hey, we want to use your superpowers, your super suits, your, you know, all that stuff for this purpose, which we're going to tell you about, and you just have to go along with it because you are now signed up to this government scheme. So like, I'm Team Cap. So Anyway, after that Marvel rant, that was also why I was apprehensive about this, because in the movies I'm very Team Cap, and I was like, am I going to read this and be swayed or like not agree anymore? No, I'm still fully Team Cap, potentially even more so, like totally Team Cap in here. This is, I think, this isn't like the main storyline of the Civil War stories. I think this is like an amalgamation of like side comics or like added like extras, bonus content and stuff, because they're a bit like, it's enough that you can follow what's going on, but there are bits where they're talking about an event that's obviously happened in like the main comics but just is not in here. They talked about like a character dying and I was like, that character's not been in these things, but like you get the context enough to know that like they were Team Cap and this thing happened and like the repercussions of that. But yeah, so this was interesting. I'm glad I finally got to it. It was like a 3-star. I think it was interesting. I was still like on board with the discussions. I think it's a very nuanced conversation actually with the whole main argument of Civil War. It's very interesting, complicated, complex arguments and debates happening. But yeah, I'm glad I read this. Liked it. Did I say 3-star? Like, yeah, 3-star. Yeah, glad I read it finally. So 2 things read: a whole book and then a comic sort of mashup comic collection, which for a week is pretty good. I normally average like a book a week, so that's pretty good. Got 2 things off my TBR. So overall, a book that I fairly recently got and a book that I've had for ages. So it's nice to have got something and fairly quickly got it off my TBR, and it's nice to have got something that I've had for a long time off my TBR. So there we go. This spring mixtape readathon was, I think, fairly successful. In terms of the bingo board, I'll show you what I completed. I did not get a line of bingo because I completed like the 3 edge squares on this side and the 3 corner squares on this side, so nothing actually creates a line. I just do the prompts that like I know I can do or I think I can do, and I don't actually focus on whether that gets me a bingo. So maybe that's something I need to pay more attention to. But I'm happy with the reading I did. I'm happy with the week I had. I'm happy that I felt productive. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more mixtape readathons. They've done all the seasons now. We've done summer, we've done autumn, we've done winter, we've done spring. So I do know that they've been discussing and asking questions on the Instagram for prompt suggestions for further readathons. So I'm excited to see whatever they come up with next. And yeah, I'm gonna go cool down. I'm so hot. And I will see you soon with another video, whatever that may be. Bye.